Tom was not like the others in Iron Hill. While most people worked in the coal mines, drank tea at the corner shop, and watched television in the evening, Tom spent his time in strange ways. He walked alone, carrying notebooks and old maps. He talked to himself sometimes. He always looked down at the ground, searching. People called him Tunnel Tom and laughed when he passed by. The children followed him on their bicycles, teasing, "Found your secret city yet, Tom?" He never answered. He just smiled softly and walked on. Tom lived in a small wooden house at the edge of the town, near the old mine that had been closed for years. Inside his home were stacks of paper, stones, metal pieces, and books passed down from his grandfather. His grandfather had worked in the mine too. But he wasn't just a miner, he was a storyteller every night. When Tom was a boy, his grandfather told him about a secret city deep underground. A city made by men, but not for war, he'd say. A place where machines float and light grows without wires. They called it the City of the Forgotten. People said the old man was mad. But Tom believed him. When his grandfather died, Tom took his maps and stories and made them his life's work. He didn't care if people laughed. He believed something was waiting underground, something real, something lost. Years passed. Tom grew older. The people in Iron Hill kept calling him a fool. His clothes were worn, his fingers always dirty from digging. But he never gave up. One morning before sunrise, Tom stood at the edge of the abandoned mine. He wore a dusty coat and carried a backpack full of tools, water, and a broken compass. In his pocket was a small piece of paper, the last map his grandfather had drawn, with a strange red X. Deep inside the mine. Tom climbed over the rusty gate and stepped into the dark tunnel. The mine was cold and silent. Old tracks still lined the ground, and wooden beams held the ceiling up like skeleton arms. Tom turned on his headlamp and walked slowly. He passed signs that warned, "Danger, area closed." He ignored them. He had been in this mine many times before, but today felt different. Something pulled him forward. Hours passed. He walked deep into the earth, through narrow paths and flooded cracks. He stopped to rest, eat a piece of bread, and checked the map again. Suddenly, his foot hit something hard. He looked down. A black stone, smooth and round, half buried in the dirt. It shimmered like glass, and thin red lines moved across it, glowing faintly. He picked it up carefully. It felt warm, alive. As he held it, the red lines pulsed. Then, without warning, the stone cracked open in his hands, not with sound, but with light. A thick black liquid poured out, not sticky, but smooth like ink. It ran to the ground and spread in strange shapes. Then, the liquid stopped moving. It formed something on the tunnel floor. A map, but not just any map. It moved, showing red lines growing and shrinking like veins, as if the mine itself was breathing. Tom dropped to his knees. His eyes were wide. This is real, he whispered. He quickly pulled out his notebook and copied the pattern. The glowing map showed a tunnel that didn't exist in any known record. It was below the mine, deeper than anyone had ever gone. His heart beat fast. His grandfather's stories were true. Tom didn't go home that night. He followed the glowing map for hours. The air grew thinner and the tunnels tighter. He used ropes to lower himself down narrow shafts. He marked the walls with chalk so he wouldn't get lost. Finally, he reached a wall that looked different. It wasn't made of stone. It was smooth, like metal, but cold. A symbol was carved into it, a circle with a sun in the center. He placed his hand on it. Nothing happened at first. Then the wall vibrated gently. Dust fell from above. A line of light appeared down the middle of the wall. Slowly, it opened. Not with a loud sound, but with a whisper, like breath escaping. Behind the door was a long tunnel made of silver stone, glowing faintly with blue light. Tom stepped forward, his mouth dry. He had found something. Far above, in the town of Iron, hill. No one knew where Tom had gone. They thought he was just wandering the forest again. Some joked he had finally found his secret city and married an underground ghost. But deep under the earth, Tom's boots echoed softly on smooth ground. He walked forward, alone, into the unknown. His lamp flickered once. Then the tunnel lit up on its own, as if it knew he was there. Tom smiled. For 20 years, he was mocked, laughed at, and ignored. Now, he was the first, and he was not going back. Tom walked deeper into the glowing tunnel. The walls were smooth and shining like silver, but they were not cold like metal. They were warm, almost like skin, and seemed to hum gently, as if the place was alive. Lights lit up ahead of him without switches. Every step he took made the next part of the tunnel glow. There were no wires, no bulbs, just light flowing through the walls like water. He had never seen anything like it. His heart raced, but his hands were steady. For the first time in 20 years, he felt like he belonged somewhere. The tunnel led him into a wide circular chamber. In the center was a stone table. Strange markings covered it, and at the center sat a small black object, shaped like a dome, with soft red lines glowing across its surface. It looked like the same black stone that had cracked in the mine above. Tom stepped closer. The markings on the table pulsed softly, as if reacting to his presence. Carefully, he touched the dome. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, the object lit up. A beam of red light shot out from it and hovered above the table, forming a map in the air, a map of the entire underground system, tunnels, doors, chambers. It was all there, floating and moving in front of his eyes. And then the map changed. New tunnel appeared. One that went even deeper. At the end of that tunnel was a circle with symbols around it, brighter than the rest, glowing golden. Tom stared at it. "That must be the city," he whispered. He pulled out his notebook and began drawing it quickly. The symbols, the shapes, the direction. He didn't want to miss a single detail. Then, something strange happened. As he drew, the glowing map stopped moving. The red light dimmed, and the stone dome cracked slightly. A black liquid began to leak out. It dripped onto the table and spread, just like before. But this time, it didn't form a floor map. It rose slowly into the air and shaped itself into writing. Not in any language Tom had seen, but something old, something deep. And then, as if the city itself could understand him, the black ink slowly changed. The letters twisted and shifted, until they became English. The path is open. But once entered, it must be completed. Exit is not promised. Tom read the words again. His hands trembled. He looked at the map still floating in the air. The city was close, maybe just a few tunnels away. But the warning stayed there, floating like a ghost in the room. He had a choice. Go back now, or keep going forward. He took a deep breath, picked up the black dome, and placed it carefully into his backpack. The moment he did, the floating map vanished. The table dimmed. The room went quiet. Tom left the chamber and followed the direction shown by the red map earlier. The walls now had markings that matched what he had drawn. He was sure he was on the right path. As he walked, he noticed strange machines along the walls. Some looked like eyes, others like floating shells. None moved. They were old, covered in dust, but they still hummed, still pulsed with power. Tom wondered how long this place had been hidden. Hundreds of years? Thousands. The tunnel slowly changed. The silver walls became wider. The air grew warmer, and he could hear the faint sound of water dripping in the distance. He reached another chamber. This one was larger than the last, shaped like a dome. In the center was a pool of water, perfectly still, surrounded by lights glowing from the floor. Above the pool, a large circle hung in the air, like a floating ring made of crystal. Tom stepped forward and looked into the pool. But it didn't show his reflection. Instead, it showed a city. Tall towers, floating bridges, gardens lit by Soft blue lights, machines moved silently through the air. It was beautiful, silent, clean, and untouched. The city wasn't dead. It was sleeping. And now it knew he was there. The crystal ring above the pool began to spin. A low tone filled the chamber. It was not loud, but it made Tom's chest vibrate. Suddenly, the pool went dark. A voice, calm, soft, and without any accent, spoke from the ring. Human life detected. Pattern match, Earth origin. Access level, unknown. Trial begins. Before Tom could react, a door opened behind the pool. A tunnel lit up with blue lines. The voice spoke again. One path. Number. Return. Tom looked at the door. He looked at the dark pool. Then at his own hands. I didn't come this far to turn back, he said, and walked through the door. The tunnel behind the pool was different. It was colder, darker. The lights flickered. The walls had carvings now, not machine-made, but hand-drawn, as if someone long ago had tried to tell a story. He saw pictures of people, machines, suns, and a city rising. Then, later carvings showed things breaking, people running, and something being locked behind a door. Was this the history of the secret city? He didn't have time to stop. The tunnel was leading him somewhere fast. The floor began to slope down. The sound of machinery grew louder. And then the tunnel opened. Tom stepped into a vast underground world. A glowing ceiling stretched far above. Towers rose from the ground like crystal trees. Water ran through canals. Bridges hung in the air without support. The whole place looked like it was made of light and glass. And yet it was empty. No people. No voices. No movement. Tom stood still. He had found the secret city. Tom stood at the edge of the glowing city, eyes wide, heart beating fast. He had found it. The place his grandfather spoke of, the secret city beneath the earth. It was more beautiful than he had ever imagined. Everything was glowing with soft blue and white light. The buildings were tall and smooth, with no sharp edges. They curved like glass trees reaching for the ceiling, which looked like a glowing sky. Some towers floated slightly above the ground, spinning slowly in the air. Long bridges stretched between them, without ropes or metal. Water flowed in quiet streams between the buildings, and flowers with shining petals grew beside them. But there was one strange thing: the silence. Not a single sound of footsteps, no voices, no wind. Just the soft hum of energy, like the whole city was asleep. Tom stepped forward slowly, afraid to break the stillness. His boots clicked softly on the glass-like floor. The buildings around him looked empty, their doors closed. Some windows glowed faintly from inside, but there were no shadows, no people. He whispered to himself, "Where is everyone?" Tom walked through the empty streets. As he passed one building, its door slid open without a sound. A soft light blinked. Inside, he stepped in. The room was filled with machines, but none looked like anything from the surface world. They were smooth, floating, with lights moving across them. In the center of the room was a platform with a chair. Above the chair floated small round objects, like glass balls filled with light. One of them lowered slowly in front of Tom. He hesitated, then reached out and touched it. The moment his finger made contact, a wave of images flooded his mind. He gasped and stumbled back. He saw people, hundreds of them, walking the streets of this very city. They looked human, but their clothes were simple and glowing. Their eyes were calm. Children played by the glowing streams. Men and women worked together, building more towers with machines that obeyed their hands. Then the images changed. Something happened. Machines began to fail. Lights turned red. The people started running. A giant door closed behind them, the same symbol Tom had seen in the tunnel. A sun inside a circle. After that, darkness. The vision ended. The ball floated back to the ceiling. Tom sat down, breathing hard. This place, it was alive, he said. They were alive. As he sat there, trying to understand, a screen lit up on one wall. Words appeared, first in symbols, then slowly changing into English. Welcome, Surface Human. This is the archive. You are the first visitor in 1,127 years. Tom stared at the screen, stunned. The screen continued. The city of the forgotten was built during the Great Surface War. It was meant to protect knowledge, peace, and life. We locked it from within when surface contact was lost. No signal received since, no return possible. You are the first to arrive. Tom slowly stood. Are there any people left here? He asked, though he didn't expect a reply. The screen flashed again. No biological life remains. All minds stored in crystal memory. Physical forms ended during system collapse. Tom felt cold. Everyone gone. He looked around the room again. The machines, the lights, the glowing memory balls. They were all that was left, but there was something else. Something inside him stirred. A purpose. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was a witness. A carrier of truth. Tom explored more of the city. As he walked through different buildings, he found more memory chambers, filled with the floating crystal orbs. Each one held stories. How the people here had left the surface, built this place, created peace, and lived in harmony with nature and machines. He also saw their warnings. One memory showed a council of people, their faces serious. We will seal the city, a man said. The surface is lost to fire and noise. We are the last. Let our knowledge survive. Another memory showed a girl, not more than 12, writing a message. If someone finds this, please tell the world what we were. We were not running. We were dreaming. Tom felt tears in his eyes. These people hadn't vanished in fear. They had built a better way of life. But it had ended quietly, forgotten by the world above. Later, Tom found a tall building in the center of the city. Its door was closed, but when he approached, the ground lit up and the door opened. Inside was a large hall, circular, with high walls and a glowing ceiling. In the middle stood a pedestal, and on it was a small round object, golden, like the sun. Tom walked to it slowly. It looked like a key. The moment he picked it up, the whole room lit up. The floor vibrated. A deep tone echoed through the hall. Core activated. System awakening. Exit protocols locked. The lights around the city turned brighter. Machines began to hum louder. Doors opened. Air shifted. Tom turned around in shock. City was waking up, and the voice returned, echoing from all sides. Human pattern accepted. Guardian system online. Access granted. But then, something strange happened. Security breach detected. Unknown code. Lockdown initiated. Red lights flashed. A new door behind him sealed shut with a loud bang. Tom's smile faded. He had started something big. And now, the city would not let him leave. Tom stood frozen in the glowing hall. The golden key in his hand still pulsed with a soft, warm light. But all around him, the color of the city had changed. The peaceful blue lights were now flashing red. The ground beneath his feet vibrated. Gently. Doors began to close behind him, one after another, locking with a deep mechanical sound. The voice returned, louder now, echoing from every wall. Unauthorized code. Guardian protocol engaged. Exit access denied. Tom took a step back. Wait. I didn't do anything wrong, he said quietly. But the city was no longer listening. He looked at the golden key in his palm. It felt alive, as if it was connected to the city's core. But when he picked it up, something must have triggered. An old defense system. Maybe the city thought he was a threat. He had to find answers. Fast. Tom left the central hall and rushed outside. The city no longer felt like a quiet place of peace. Now it was like a machine waking from a long sleep, unsure, confused, and ready to protect itself. The streets were empty, But now small floating drones buzzed slowly through the air. They didn't chase him, but their glowing red eyes followed his every move. Tom kept walking, holding the golden key tightly. He looked for another archive room, one with more memory crystals. Maybe something in the city's history could explain what was happening. Finally, near the edge of a garden, he found a round building with a silver door. It slid open when he approached, and he stepped inside. The room was quiet. Soft blue light returned here, and the air was calm. He found another set of floating crystals in the center. He touched one. This time, the memory was different. He saw a woman standing in the same room. She wore simple clothes and had kind eyes. Her voice spoke through the memory. If you are seeing this, then the city is awake. And you are not one of us. Tom leaned forward. I am Mira, daughter of the council. My people have ended. We gave our minds to the crystals so our memories could survive. But the city has rules. It sees every stranger as danger. The memory showed. Red lights flashing, just like now. The woman's face looked sad. We built the Guardian to protect us, but after the collapse, it was never shut down. It only sleeps. If someone enters and takes the key, the Guardian will activate. It will not understand. It only follows commands. Tom now understood. The city's defense system had no one left to command it. It had been asleep for 1,000 years, and now it saw him as a problem. Myra's message continued. There is still a way. The key can speak to the city, but only from the Heart Tower, the place where it was first made. Reach the tower, and you may be able to stop the Guardian, or you may not. The crystal dimmed. The memory ended. Tom stood still. He had a chance, a small one, to fix this. He pulled out his notebook and map. The tower was shown clearly in the center of the city, marked with a sun symbol. But getting there wouldn't be easy now. The drones were watching. Doors were locking. The Guardian was waking. Tom left the memory room and began walking fast, moving between buildings, staying out of open areas. The ground below his feet sometimes shook as if something large was moving beneath it. More drones appeared in the sky. He ducked under a glowing bridge and waited for them to pass. Using the old maps and his own memory, he made his way closer to the Heart Tower. The city was beautiful even in danger. Light danced on the walls. Plants still grew in floating pots. Machines that hadn't moved in centuries were starting to glow. The place was alive again, but confused. He passed a tall mirror wall. For the first time in days, he saw his reflection. His face was tired. His clothes were torn and dusty, but in his eyes, there was fire. A spark of purpose. He had to finish what he started. Tom reached the edge of the Heart Tower. Grounds. It stood taller than any other building in the city. Its shape was simple, a tall spike of white crystal, with golden rings circling around it, slowly turning in the air. A single bridge led to it, stretching over a deep glowing trench. But two drones now floated near the entrance, their red eyes flashing. Tom crouched behind a fallen wall. He watched their pattern. They moved in a slow circle, leaving a small gap every 20 seconds. He took a deep breath, tightened the straps of his bag, and ran. He dashed across the bridge just as the drones turned. One of them beeped loudly and flashed red. But Tom didn't stop. The door of the tower opened for him. Recognizing the key in his hand, he jumped inside, and the door closed behind him. Safe, for now. The inside of the Heart Tower was bright and open. The walls glowed with golden white light. Long lines of energy flowed up into the ceiling like rivers of sunlight. In the center was a control panel. It floated in the air, shaped like a circle with symbols all around. Tom walked up and placed the key into the center. A deep hum filled the room. The symbols lit up. The city shook slightly beneath his feet, and the voice returned. But this time, it was soft again. Core access granted. Guardian system listening. Tom swallowed. "Stop the lockdown," he said. "Let me leave." The symbols changed. The lights moved quickly. Then came the reply. Request denied. Guardian in override mode. Manual shutdown required. Tom sighed. Of course, nothing is ever easy. The panel showed a new path, a chamber below the tower. The final system room. He had to go there, face the heart of the Guardian, and try to stop it manually. He picked up the key again. The path opened. In front of him, Dot and Tom, once called a fool, walked forward, not as a joke, not as a dreamer, but as the last hope of the forgotten city. Tom held the golden key tightly in his hand as he stepped onto the platform that led down to the Guardian chamber. A soft light surrounded him, and the floor began to lower slowly into the earth. He could feel the deep vibrations through his boots, not loud but strong, like the heartbeat of the city itself. The tower above faded away, and walls of crystal passed by as he descended. Symbols glowed on the sides, old and unreadable, like the last whispers of a forgotten world. Tom's thoughts were racing. He had made it this far, but the real challenge was still ahead. He had to shut down the Guardian, the city's ancient defense system, or he would be trapped here forever. He didn't know what it looked like, how it worked, or what it might do to stop him, but he did know one thing. He couldn't turn back now. The platform stopped at the bottom of a vast underground hall. The chamber was dark at first. Then, as he stepped off the platform, lines of red light flowed across the floor, walls, and ceiling. Slowly, the chamber lit up, not with soft light like the rest of the city, but with sharp, glowing red. Ahead of him stood a large circular machine, built into the ground like a deep well. Around it floated tall columns of light, humming and spinning slowly. In the center of the well was a single floating core, pulsing like a heartbeat. Tom stepped forward. The key in his hand glowed brighter. As he approached the machine, a voice filled the chamber. This time, it was not calm. It was deep, mechanical, and cold. Intruder confirmed. Guardian protocol active. Surface human identified. Exit restricted. Tom spoke firmly. "I'm not here to harm anything. I just want to leave," the Guardian's voice replied. "Request denied. Surface threat level unknown. System control locked." The red lights pulsed faster. Tom placed the key onto a platform near the machine. It slid into place, and a control panel rose from the floor in front of him. Symbols flashed. Then they changed into English. Manual override possible. Puzzle. Protocol engaged. Error risk high. Tom's eyes narrowed. A puzzle? He looked at the symbols on the panel. There were shapes, lights, and energy paths that needed to be connected. It looked like a test of logic and focus. He had no choice. Tom worked carefully. He moved the shapes across the panel, trying to match the patterns. Every time he got one part correct, a soft tone played. If he made a mistake, the panel flashed red, and the lights in the chamber blinked quickly. After the third mistake, the voice returned. "Warning. Core defense rising. Please exit chamber." Tom ignored it. He wiped sweat from his forehead and kept working. He remembered something his grandfather once said. "When the world gives you a puzzle, don't rush. The answer is usually waiting for you to slow down." He took a deep breath and moved the last two shapes into place. A loud sound filled the chamber. A deep, ringing tone. The panel glowed green. Manual override accepted. Guardian pause mode activated. Tom let out a long breath and leaned on the panel. He had done it, or at least part of it. Then the lights changed again. A hidden door opened behind the core machine. Inside, a new passage lit up, and the voice returned, softer this time. Final shutdown switch located. Warning, one-time access. Tom picked up the key again and entered the passage. It was narrow, with red and gold lights running along the floor. The walls were covered in old handprints, not painted. but built into the crystal itself. He ran his hand across them as he walked. Maybe these were the hands of those who built this place. The last humans of the lost city, he reached. The final chamber. In the center was a tall pillar. At the top, a small slot, shaped exactly like the key. This was it. Tom stepped forward. But then he saw something else. A figure. It stood near the pillar, not human, but shaped like one. Tall, thin, made of smooth white metal, with a glowing red eye in the center of its head. The guardian. It didn't speak. It didn't move. It just watched him. Tom froze. Then the voice came, this time from the figure itself. You are not one of us. You hold power not meant for the surface. Step back. Tom stood tall. Your people are gone, he said. They left this knowledge behind so it wouldn't be lost. I'm not a thief. I'm a witness. The guardian replied, You do not belong. Tom held up the key. I came here because I believed. I was laughed at, called a fool. But I came. Anyway, and now I know your city is not just a dream. It's a lesson. A message. The guardian remained still for a moment. Then slowly, it stepped aside. The voice echoed, If you choose to carry this knowledge, then you must also carry the weight. Tom walked to the pillar. He placed the key into the slot. A bright light filled the room. The red lights faded. The energy in the chamber slowed. Then silence. Tom opened his eyes. The guardian was gone. The pillar stopped glowing. The voice returned one last time. Guardian system offline. Exit path opened. Thank you, surface witness. Tom felt his legs shake. He had done it. Back at the surface of the city, the red lights were gone. The soft blue light returned. The drones had vanished. The air felt peaceful again. Tom stood in the heart of the forgotten city. No longer a stranger. No longer a fool. He had passed the test. But one question remained. Would he make it out alive? Tom stood in the middle of the glowing city, breathing slowly. The red lights were gone. The guardian system was shut down. The golden key had done its work. The silence around him was peaceful again, just like when he first arrived. But this time something felt different. The city was no longer watching him. For the first time since he entered, he felt safe. He looked around. Tall crystal towers stood quietly. Soft blue light returned to the streets. Floating walkways moved gently through the air. The buildings seemed to breathe again, not in fear, but in peace. Tom knew the city had accepted him, but now he had a new goal. To get out. Tom opened his notebook and checked the maps. He had marked every turn, door, and tunnel from the mine entrance to the heart of the city. But something worried him. The same tunnel that brought him in might not take him out. When the guardian was activated, many paths had shifted, sealed, or disappeared. He couldn't trust the old route anymore. He needed a new way back. The city had to have one. He was sure of it. Tom returned to the archive, the round building with floating memory crystals. He stepped inside, and the door closed behind him. The blue lights flickered gently. He touched the crystal that once showed him Myra, the girl who left a message for the future. This time, a different crystal floated down. When he touched it, Myra's voice returned. If you are here, she said softly, and the guardian is silent, then maybe, just maybe, you are the one we hoped would come. The crystal showed a small hidden tunnel, marked behind the east garden. Myra continued, Before the end, I made a secret way out. My father said it would never be used, but I didn't believe him. I thought someone might find us one day. Someone brave. Someone good. Tom watched closely. The vision showed a long, narrow passage that led far beneath the city, toward the old lower mine levels. The tunnel is hidden behind the mirror wall, she said. It leads to an old mining shaft. You must be careful. It's not safe, and time is short. The memory ended. Tom whispered, Thank you, Myra. He didn't know her, but he felt close to her. She had believed in someone like him, someone from the surface. She had trusted that one day, a human would come not to steal, but to learn. Wouldn't let her down. Tom made his way to the east garden. The plants there still glowed softly. A long mirror wall stood between two trees. He walked to it and placed his hand on the glass. Nothing happened. Then he remembered. The key. He pulled it out and touched the mirror with it. With a soft sound, the mirror rippled like water. A doorway appeared. Behind it, a narrow tunnel stretched into the dark. Tom stepped in. The tunnel was not like the rest of the city. It was older, rougher. The walls were cracked and dusty. Lights were few, and the ground was uneven. He walked carefully, holding the key like a lantern. It gave off just enough light to see. After about an hour, he reached a broken chamber, once part of the mining system. Old wooden beams held the walls up. Rusted rails lined the floor. It smelled like dirt and stone again. He was back in the world he knew. Almost. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed behind him, a deep groan from the tunnel. The door was closing. Tom turned and ran back. But it was too late. The mirror wall entrance had already sealed shut. The soft blue light disappeared. He was trapped on this side now. No going back. He whispered. He turned around and moved forward again. As he walked, he began to hear strange sounds, metal shifting, rocks falling, and the wind of something large moving through the lower tunnels. The city was still alive behind him, but the tunnels ahead were not quiet. Something had been disturbed. Tom's heart beat faster. He knew he had to move. Quickly, he found an old elevator platform, half broken but still standing. He stepped on it and looked for power. He placed the golden key into a small slot nearby. Surprisingly, it worked. The elevator shook, groaned, and began to rise. As it moved, Tom looked up and saw the light above, faint and far, but real. That was the way out. He smiled for the first time in days. The elevator reached the top level, a familiar chamber with cracked stone walls and rusted tools. It was part of the abandoned section of Iron Hill Mine. He stepped off and looked around. Everything was dusty, but the air was dry and clean. He took one deep breath, then another. He was close. He walked through the tunnels with his notebook in one hand, flashlight in the other. Every corner, every step, brought back memories. This was the place where people once laughed at him, called him mad, said he'd find nothing but rock and dirt. Now, he had found something more. Something real, something greater than all their words. He reached the final gate, the rusted one he had climbed over days ago. Sunlight shone through the cracks. He pushed it open and stepped into the fresh air. The wind hit his face. The sun touched his skin. Tom stood outside, back in the real world. But he was not the same man who had entered the mine. In his hands, he held the key, the last proof of a lost civilization. In his mind, he held memories no one else had seen. Looked up at the sky and whispered, "I made it." Then he turned and walked toward Iron Hill, ready to share what he had found, ready to tell the world. Tom walked through the forest path slowly. His shoes were dirty. His clothes were torn. His hands were shaking, but he was alive. The sunlight on his face felt warm, like a soft welcome after a long dark dream. Birds were singing in the trees. The breeze smelled like pine and fresh leaves. It had only been 5 days since he entered Iron Hill Mine, but for Tom, it felt like 5 years. He stopped at the edge of the road and looked toward the small town of Iron Hill. From a distance, it looked the same: quiet houses, an old diner, a single gas station, and the tall white church tower in the middle. Nothing had changed, but he had. In his pocket was the golden key. In his notebook were pages full of maps, sketches, and notes, proof of a secret underground city with glowing towers and forgotten history. He knew no one would believe him right away. They never had. But this time, it didn't matter. He had seen it with his own eyes. Tom entered the town. People stared at him as he passed, The same way they always did, some whispered. Isn't that Tom? He went into the mine again. Crazy man, Tom kept walking. He didn't look at them. At the corner of the street, he saw old Mr. Walter sitting outside the shop, reading a newspaper. The old man looked up and narrowed his eyes. Well, Mr. Walter said, did you finally find what you were looking for? Tom stopped walking. He took the golden key out of his pocket and held it up. More than I hoped, he said quietly. Mr. Walter said nothing. He just watched Tom walk away. Tom returned to his small home at the edge of town. It was dusty and cold inside. Books and papers were everywhere. The shelves were full of old maps and drawings. He dropped his bag and sat down in front of his desk. For the next 3 days, he didn't leave the house. He wrote everything, every moment, every step, every room in the city, every word Mira had said. He drew the crystal towers. He described the guardian system. He mapped the tunnel from the East Garden. He made a full report. Then he made copies. One copy he sent to the University of Earth Sciences. Another copy he sent to a local newspaper. A third copy he kept hidden under his floorboard. He didn't expect quick answers. But someone, somewhere would read his work. Someone would understand. A week later, Tom received a letter. It was from Dr. Illa Reeves, a researcher from the Earth Sciences Department. She had read his report. Her words were, "Simple, I believe you. Let's meet." Tom smiled. The world was finally changing. A few days later, Dr. Reeves arrived in Iron Hill with 2 other scientists. They wore clean coats, carried scanning devices, and treated Tom with respect. Tom took them to the mine entrance. Didn't laugh. They didn't mock him. They listened. But the moment they reached the sealed gate of the mirror wall tunnel, the scientists stopped. "There's something behind here," one of them said. "Energy readings, not normal." Tom showed them the golden key. He placed it near the rocks, but nothing happened. The entrance remained closed. Tom didn't panic. He understood now. The city had let him in once because it needed him. It had chosen him. Now that he had left, it was sleeping again. Maybe forever. Dr. Reeves touched the wall gently. "Can you get us back in?" she asked. Tom shook his head. "It's not up to me." Weeks passed. News began to spread about the man who found a lost city underground. Some people believed him. Others still laughed. But then, strange things started happening. The satellite images over the Iron Hill area showed small glowing marks, shapes that did not match the normal rock formations. The energy readings were stronger at night. And most strangely, 2 hikers disappeared near the mine and returned the next morning, confused, silent, and afraid. They said nothing about what they saw. One day, a message arrived for Tom. It was a small envelope. Inside was a single note. "We're listening now. Come again, if you are ready." There was no name. No address. Only a small glowing symbol drawn at the bottom. The same symbol he had seen on the archive walls in the city. Tom held the paper close. He knew what it meant. That night, Tom packed his bag again. He didn't tell anyone. He walked quietly to the mine under the stars. The entrance waited for him, silent, dark, and deep. He placed the golden key near the wall. This time, the rocks shimmered. The mirror wall opened once more. Tom smiled. He stepped forward and disappeared into the light. Epilogue: the legacy of a mocked man years later. People still tell stories about the man from Iron Hill, the one who was mocked for 20 years. Children read his book in school. Scientists speak of the underground city that no one else could find. And every now and then, someone goes to the mine, hoping to see what he saw. But no one else returns with a golden key, because the city opens only for those who understand. Only for those who listen.